So this is fascinating and maybe stupid depending on how we take a look at this. But Charlie Walters of St. Paul Pioneer Press came out with a with an article discussing how the Vikings considered moving Justin Jefferson in a trade to the Los Angeles Chargers at the number 5 spot in order to draft his replacement of Malik Nabers. And this is what the report had to say. Quote, there was a buzz at draft time that the Vikings wanted to move from number 11 to number 5, not to pick a quarterback, but to get LSU wide receiver Malik Nabers, who was picked at number 6 by the Giants. Had that trade occurred, Jefferson would have been traded and Nabers would have been the number 1 receiver. Once again, Charlie Walters of St. Paul Pioneer Press. It's quite interesting that the Vikings would trade up to get a replacement.
One thing I don't understand about this, and maybe you can clarify for me, were they going to trade Jefferson to get to number 5?
Yeah.
They were going to trade him to get to number 5.
The massive piece would probably be Jefferson and number 11 to move up to 5 or something else like that. But Jefferson would be moving on to the Chargers, who sat at the number 5 spot. So I don't know, would this have been a good or a bad idea for the Vikings to trade up and trade away Justin Jefferson?
You're going to have to pay him a huge amount of money to keep him, right? He's going to be playing on his 5th-year option. That's about $19.7 million, a little bit more for the 5th year. And then if they don't lock him up now, he'll wind up being a free agent. He'll get a massive contract. I think you look at his stats. I mean, this past year he got hurt for part of the year, and he had nobody really throwing it to him after Kirk Cousins got hurt. Still got 68 passes, 5 TDs in 10 games. That you extrapolate that out, that's a great season if he'd played all the games. And then the year before in 22, he had 128 receptions for 1,800 yards. Hey, that guy he's good. He's one of the best, and he's going to command a giant salary. And he'll get to see some others' contracts come before his. CeeDee Lamb, he'll probably get a contract here pretty soon. It'll be interesting to see what he gets. There'll be some benchmarks set there that he will probably exceed given his talent and his age. I think I'm a little surprised, actually. I can understand why the Chargers wouldn't have gone for him because they'd be in the same predicament, right? You're really only getting him for 1 year unless you're willing to up the ante and give him a giant contract. They took all instead. And interestingly, the Vikings actually kind of wound up with what they wanted in the end. They got McCarthy as a quarterback, and that's what everyone thought they wanted to do, was to draft one of the better rookie quarterbacks, and they got McCarthy. So hearing this, whether the Vikings really considered this strongly or not, I don't know. I kind of wonder about that a little bit.
Well, I think as it currently stands, Jefferson trying to figure out his contract situation with Minnesota, and then the Chargers doing their thing of drafting Joe Alt at number 5 and building through the draft that way, and hoping Quentin Johnston gets his act together and becomes, maybe their next best wide receiver. I think where everything stands currently as is the best way. So I think this would have been a bad idea for the Chargers to bring in Justin Jefferson. They're already in cap hell. They got to spend so much money on players players. They got rid of a bunch of pieces like Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and such. But defensively, they're paying guys up the wazoo over here.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you're going to get a massive piece of a guy hoping for, $32 million a year. And with probably over $100 million guaranteed. The contract wouldn't have made sense. You probably would need to strip your entire team bare, at least offensively, even more so, and just hope that Justin Herbert to Justin Jefferson, the Justin Powers, they go out there and just absolutely ball. The chances are that probably won't happen. So I think where it currently stands is the way it should be, because the Chargers financially would need to move so many pieces in order to get Jefferson signed to a long-term deal. Or what they could have done is kind of do it the way sometimes in the NBA it happens. You trade a piece and then you immediately trade him again. Now, I don't think they would do that, because why would you give up a talent like why would you give up so much just to get him to then trade him again? Maybe you don't get him for the same value that you traded him for. So I think that the the Vikings will figure it out. I think Kevin O'Connell, he has said that they're still working things out and they'll probably get it done. But based on the projections, we're looking at $32.5 million over, I think, 4 seasons. So it's a $500,000 more than A.J. Brown's got, who's making $32 million a year. So, and reportedly, we keep seeing reports about $90 to $100 million guaranteed. He's looking at A.J. Brown. He wants even more than that, and I think he should because he is a better player than A.J. Brown. I think that's pretty much undisputed. When he's
young.
Healthy, he's 24 years old. He's incredibly talented. Year 1 in the NFL, we're talking about, several. He's definitely a 1,000-yard receiver. We're talking about 1,700 yards. And my guess would be if he's really, really relied upon, because if Kirk Cousins didn't have T.J. Hawkinson or Jordan Addison, we could probably see a couple seasons now with double-digit receiving touchdowns. If he really needs to be that wide receiver 1, which maybe if it was Herbert to Jefferson, we would have seen several seasons of double-digit touchdowns. But the fact that he's just a player who flies off the screen, could beat basically anybody in any coverage, it's a very, very valuable asset to have. And the way the Vikings are structured right now with a young quarterback, with a young receiver, I mean, it could be maybe like your Tom Brady, Randy Moss. Now, Randy Moss is a little bit older. However, it could be that type of thing where you have 2 young players growing within the same sort of time period, with the wide receiver being a little bit more, of a veteran piece, but extremely talented. And then you have let's just hope. Let's hope. And I think Vikings fans would also hope this, that J.J. McCarthy doesn't let what happened to Baker Mayfield when he had OBJ happen to him, where he feels like he has to, get the ball to Jefferson instead of spread it around or hand the ball off to Aaron Jones or even T.J. Hawkinson or Jordan Addison. He feels like he needs to get to Jefferson because he's the big name player with a big time contract. Hopefully he could spread it out, and I think Kevin O'Connell will do a good job with that, teaching him and coaching him offensively. So I think that this would have been a relatively bad idea for both parties, actually, because you're going to draft Malik Nabers, and then Sam Darnold would be your starting quarterback, unless you want to go with, I guess, actually what? You would need to go with a tier 2 quarterback if you're including all first-round quarterbacks in the same tier, which they're not. But for the sake of this, if you end at Bo Nix or Michael Penix, who is basically on everybody's draft stock, with one of those quarterbacks being the last worthy first-round pick, and then you get into Spencer Rattler and Jordan Travis and all them others, you would need to draft at number 23 if you do keep that pick after the trade-up. That would be your quarterback, unless you want to stick with Sam Darnold, which... I mean, just Sam Darnold isn't a great quarterback. So you would have Malik Nabers trying to catch balls from Sam Darnold.
Yeah, well, I think the Vikings need to get a deal done with Jefferson before the season starts.
100%.
Right? Because if they don't, he's going to annoy him, and he's going to hold out. He's going to give him even more motivation to have a fantastic season. Then he's going to opt out to be a free agent, and the chances of getting him back, I think, are nil. Small, very small.
I would agree with that. 100%.
I mean, wouldn't he love to go to a big market, a really big market in L.A. or New York? Right?
I would agree. I think a lot of players do.
Yeah. So I'd say they better figure out a deal with him, and it'd be worth it. I think if you could lock him up for 4 years, he's only 24 years old, 4 more years.
Right.
That would be, and you have to guarantee $100 million. I think it's probably worth it.
You got rid of some of your big-time defensive pieces and replaced them. You got rid of Hunter, but then you ended up replacing him with Dallas Turner. Like, the Vikings made a lot of really good moves. This would have been a very dumb move, in my opinion, because the way that they situated their draft this year is, I think, what a lot of people were hoping that they would do, where you want to get a quarterback instead of Sam Darnold. You need another defensive piece because you lost Danielle Hunter. You replaced him beautifully and arguably with the best edge rusher in this draft. I think they executed this very, very well. Yeah,
well, I think the big question mark for them is J.J. McCarthy the real deal?
And I think with Kevin O'Connell as your OC/head coach, or offensive play caller, I guess, but as your head coach, And with just the amount of talent, I mean, we talked about it before. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson, Aaron Jones in the backfield, Christian Darrisaw, your tackle. It's hard to see a situation where it's the team's fault that you are not a great player. Patriots. It's kind of the team's fault that Drake may not be that great because the team isn't built very well. I mean, Zach Wilson, the offensive line was horrible. You couldn't take 2 seconds before you were either going down on the ground. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, 75 seconds. Could feel that wrath of how poorly that offense was structured, or at least the offensive line was structured. I think when it comes to the Vikings, there's no way you could say it's the Vikings' fault that J.J. McCarthy doesn't have enough pieces around him to succeed. So
he does. He has the pieces.
Exactly.
The question is he capable of throwing the ball 30, 35 times a game when he's only thrown it an average of 17 throughout his college career?
You'd be doubling the amount of intensity.
It's a lot. Right? That's double.
Yeah.
Doubling the amount of times you throw the ball in a game. And that's going to be very different territory for him.
Yeah.
And whether he can do that consistently, maybe he can start the year and that will be okay. But once he gets 10 games, 11 games into the season, he's going to be playing more games in his first year in the NFL than he ever played in any season before this. He could hit the brick wall. And he could hit the brick wall, Nate.
It's hard to say that it'll just be McCarthy wall. I think maybe, we might see some decline as all rookies do, where you get that rookie fatigue or something where the rookies make, mistakes that they need to learn from. But it's hard to see, and same thing with Caleb Williams. The Bears did a very, very good job surrounding whatever quarterback was going to be there with a decent amount of offensive pieces. You still got DJ Moore, you got DeAndre Swift, you got Keenan Allen, you're developing a relatively good offensive line. Backfield is looking good with DeAndre Swift as the feature back. You got Cole Kmet, the tight end. It looks like a growing good offense, and it's weird to say
Keenan Allen's old.
Right, but still, he's a guy.
So is Mike Williams.
Well, Mike Williams on the Jets. I mean, that's Aaron Rodgers' problem to deal with. And he's also injury prone as well. But I think that if we're talking about what quarterback has the best chance to succeed, I think you have to put J.J. McCarthy very high on that list because the best receiver in the NFL, a very good running back one. You have a top five tight end in the league in T.J. Hawkinson, and you have one of the best young wide receiver twos in the league in Jordan Addison.
Don't you think the Vikings expect to be a playoff contender this year?
I think they
do. I think they plan to be a playoff contender. The big question mark is J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah.
He is the unknown in that whole setup there. They strengthened their defense. They have great pieces on offense. Is J.J. McCarthy up to the task? And if he isn't, then you say, what's his name?
Mac Jones?
No, the backup in the Vikings.
Sam
Darnold.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. He's had flashes of looking good, but never been able to be consistently good. So, quarterback is the big question mark for the Vikings.
And I think, we're only in we're about to enter June in a few days from now. Mandatory minicamp starts soon. Then you got, full-blown training camp. It's going to be interesting to see what happens and how J.J. McCarthy will look throughout, the rest of this offseason. And then week one is actually in 100 days from today. So we'll have to wait and see. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, if you want to check out the full episode, make sure you click the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to listen to this show anywhere you go, make sure you go to anchor.fm/The Harvey Hour or anywhere you get your podcasts.